Welcome to Engedrian. If this is your first time listening, or even if you are returning, be sure to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for additional content, battle maps, and background details. We hope you are enjoying our adventure. Let's see what happens next. The square is almost filled to capacity, with more than 1,000 people gathered for the festival, including those from the surrounding farms. Inacel and Theophania quickly spot their furrier friend on the edge of the square, selling fur-lined items and antlerware, waving to him as the crowd gathers. Theophania makes a persuasion check, DC 10, rolls 18. Theophania moves to the northwest of the fountain and begins to invite children to ride on her back or in her cart as she parades them around the square in a large circle, ever so often exchanging a few children with others from the crowd. Malaysia makes a performance check, DC 10, rolls 13. Malaysia stations himself on the southeast side of the fountain and begins juggling balls of flame to the great amusement and excitement of adults and children alike. Every once in a while, he fires a fireball straight into the sky, which explodes in bursts of harmless sparks and dissipates. His hair, afire and glowing, occasionally catches one of the juggling balls and another reappears in his hand. The crowd is enamored, but Malaysia notices that several people are looking at him ominously and looking at the fountain. Perhaps his display is acceptable because at any moment the water could douse his flames. What is the fear of fire he keeps noticing? Inacel stands under a tree on the northern road exit from the square, in shadow. She studies the crowd passing into the square from her road, as well as those that have gathered. Fodinas, Umgurn, Peace, and Case have taken up similar positions on the other four roads leading into the square, each in the shadow of the large trees that ring the square. Because she knows they are there, she can just make out each of them ever so often as the light of the encased torches in the square flicker and illuminate their faces. Northeast of the main fountain, a platform raised a few feet off the ground has been erected, and now 3 people climb to the top and address the audience. The first, tallest among them, is a half-elf woman who Inacel understands is the mayor of this town. The second is a portly, burly human with several badges and pins that may be the constable to whom Umgurn reports. The third is a small halfling wearing formal black robes and carrying only a wand while wearing the smallest little top hat that Inacel does not recognize. Fodinas listens intently to the mayor, the constable, and the business commissioner, who also happens to run the caged match fighting, as they address the crowd. There is nothing of much interest, but as this is his first Incabulos Lullaby festival in his memory, he is curious to hear the details. Mostly, it is several prepared soliloquies on harvest, winter, food, safety, preparing for spring, and of course, warnings about the dark fairy, which make the children scream and giggle all around the fountain. He scans the crowd carefully while listening, occasionally looking to Malaysia and Theophania for any hint of danger. Case and Peace, both taking in everything anew from this alien Engedrian festival, have trouble focusing on the task at hand because there is so much going on. They are both very curious, and the whizzing lights, screams, colorful costumes, aroma of food, and myriad of faces are quite distracting. Umgurn, on the other hand, is all too familiar with every face in the crowd and looks sternly for all strangers and abnormal activity. Inacel, Theophania, Case, Peace, Fodinas, and Umgurn make perception checks, Case and Peace at disadvantage, DC 15, rolls 19, 13, 5, 18, 15, and 20. From their street positions, Peace, Fodinas, Umgurn, and Inacel notice that a tall, dark figure has entered the edge of the crowd near Malaysia that seems a bit too interested in his act. They prepare their weapons carefully and begin moving through the crowd. Theophania and Case do not seem to notice this new person. Malaysia continues his juggling and acrobatics, circling and turning constantly. As he comes around to face south with the fountain behind him, a tall figure wearing all black stands at the edge of the crowd. She's impossible not to notice in her dark, shiny leathers, long, dark flowing hair, amber skin, and purple eyes. She smiles at him and moves a little to the left. As she does, Malaysia sees the darkness within her long cloak sparkle as if full of stars. He gasps a bit to himself. Malaysia makes a stealth check, performance check, and an acrobatics check, DC 10. Rolls 8, 15, and 13. With his back to her, he quickly removes 4 obsidian chips from his pouch and a small tool, tinkers with them for a moment or two, but drops 2 of them, quickly picking them up, and then places 2 in each hand. He leaps up onto the fountain and hurls, one at a time, while spinning in the air and smiling, the 4 chips in the direction of Fodinas, Case, Peace, and Umgurn. Malaysia makes 4 ranged attacks with tinkered obsidian chips, DC 12. Rolls 18, 16, 15, and 14. Each of the obsidian chips lands within a foot of their target and begins flashing red light and making noise. Case, Peace, Fodinus, and Umgurn make perception checks. Case at disadvantage. DC 10. Rolls 12, 8, 19, and 11. Although the brightly flashing chips are near their feet, Peace does not notice. However, Umgurn, Case, and Fodinus notice, lift it to their ears, and hear, "She's here." They each begin quickening their pace through the crowd. Peace continues at a cautious pace. Malaysia casts Message. When Malaysia lands on the fountain edge, facing south, still away from the stranger, he quickly points in the direction of Inicel and whispers, "She's here." Inicel hears a message whispered in her mind, sees the issue unfolding, and moves quickly towards the fountain. His best effort to signal his colleagues complete, Malaysia turns back to the stranger and moves closer to her.
"Hello there. Fancy a bit of magic, my lady?"
He resumes the juggling of his balls of flame. He moves around the open circle made by the crowd, which causes the woman to step to her left a few feet.
"Little one, magic is the only thing I fancy. In fact, I'm most interested in your fire magic. My name is Incabulos Chilpira."
"I'm Malaysia Grimdale, but maybe you already know that. But why are you interested in my fire magic?"
He continues to contort his hands in various shapes and patterns as he juggles the balls of flame. He moves further, and she mimics him moving around the clearing.
"Well, I'm working on a spell, you see. It's a very powerful spell that will open a portal and allow me to bring forth several beings to do a job for me."
"Oh, what kind of job?"
Malaysia performs a backflip, catching all the balls of flames in his hair, and then producing more. He moves once again, as does the stranger. She now stands with her back to the fountain.
"Well, if you must know, I want to burn this capital city to the ground. I need a few fire-charged fiends to do that."
She smiles and folds her arms in front of her matter-of-factly. Malaysia gulps, but it is neither seen nor heard.
"My lady, that seems a bit aggressive."
He has stopped moving and quickly scans the crowd. Inicel now stands on one corner of the fountain, watching intently. Umgurn stands at the other. To his left and right, at the edge of the crowd, he sees Case and Peace crouched. He does not see Fodinus, but he wouldn't expect to. Malaysia casts Message. He twirls in place, and as he returns to face her, his fingers are pointing directly at Inicel and Umgurn for dramatic effect, and he whispers, "Gag her quickly." Inicel makes an intelligence check. Rolls 21. Inicel hears the message intended for her clearly. She pulls 4 feet of rope from her backpack and cuts it off the main coil and in half, putting both 2-foot pieces in her mouth. Inicel makes a stealth check. Rolls 17. Malaysia resumes juggling balls of fire and watches as Inicel slips beneath the deep water of the fountain soundlessly.
"It may seem aggressive, child, but I always get what I want, and what I want at the moment is your heart. You see, for my spell to work, I need the heart of a being from the elemental plane of fire, and what a coincidence you happen to be here. I learned of you in Catha, but didn't know which direction you went. I've been to multiple towns tracking you, but finally got a lead that you were here. So you're it."
She unfolds her hands, and a drop of water floats between them. With a flick of her wrists, an ice knife forms and streaks towards Malaysia. Inacrin casts Ice Knife. Malaysia makes a dex saving throw, rolls 14 versus AC 15 for a miss. Malaysia fails dex saving throw with an 8 versus DC 14. Ice Knife explodes for 9 damage. Malaysia reacts to the incoming dagger of ice to avoid being stabbed, but the shattering blade stings him with crystals. He responds by absorbing some of the magical energy. Malaysia casts Absorb Elements, taking only 5 damage and adding 1d6 cold damage to his next attack. Malaysia casts Firebolt plus 1d6 cold damage. Inacrin makes a dex saving throw, rolls 22 versus AC 15, dealing 6 fire damage and 3 cold damage. 13 dex saving throw versus DC 15 fails. He responds to her attack with a bolt of fire directed at her chest. The firebolt explodes, followed by a small burst of ice. The crowd gasps and moves back. With the edge of the fountain directly behind her, Inacrin loses her balance, splashing into the water. Umgurn bounds from the back of the fountain to land from where she just fell. Inicel emerges from the water with Inacrin, her mouth and hands bound by rope. Case, Fodinus, and Peace join them.
"Well done. Let's take her to the guard's office quickly before we draw any more attention."
Only a few minutes later, Umgurn, Peace, Case, and Fodinas stand next to Inacrin, who sits in a chair with her mouth and hands bound by Inacel's rope. Inacel and Malaysia stand near the door of the guards' offices, and Theophania is just outside, looking through an open window, as the room is large enough for her. Malaysia has drunk one of Inacel's healing potion and is back to full strength. Inacel uses 1 potion of healing. Malaysia regains 5 hit points. The captain of the guard is sitting at her desk with 3 other soldiers next to her, reviewing the notes she's taken.
Well, it seems the best thing to do here is to take this one to Pathelia for them to decide what to do with her.
She shuffles a piece of parchment from a stack and begins writing with a quill.
That would seem the most prudent course.
Umgurn stands with his arms folded, looking at Inacrin with disdain. Suddenly, Inacrin's hands are free and a small dagger flies from her hand. Surprise attack. Inacrin casts Eldritch Blast, targeting Captain and Guard. Rolls 25 and 25 versus AC's 15 for 2 hits, doing 8 and 12 damage to the Captain and the Guard. Inacrin quickly pulls down her rope gag, folds her hands around themselves, and releases 2 blasts of Eldritch energy at the Captain and the soldier next to her. The Captain and the soldier are blasted off their feet by the repelling blasts and fall stunned to the floor. She leaps from the chair onto the desk and turns to face the party. Everyone rolls for initiative. Inacel holds her action and movement. Peace moves into melee with Inacrin, attacks Inacrin with unarmed strike twice with claws. Rolls 16 versus AC 15 for a hit for 8 damage, rolls 9 for a miss. Peace bounds forward into melee with Inacrin and swipes quickly at her with their claws, slashing her side once. Inacrin casts Hellish Rebuke, targeting Peace as a reaction. Rolls 7 damage. Peace rolls 15 versus 14 dex save, takes 4 damage. Inacrin responds with a rebuke of hellish fire as flames surround Peace and engulf them. Guard 3 moves into melee with Inacrin, attacks Inacrin with short sword. Rolls 10 versus AC 15 for a miss. The guard to the left of the desk moves forward and slashes at Inacrin with his short sword, but misses and buries his sword into the wood of the desk's surface. Theophania attacks Inacrin with her longbow. Rolls 8 versus AC 15, a miss. Theophania quickly notches an arrow and releases it from her longbow through the window, but the arrow goes wide and shatters against the far stone wall. Guard 2 moves into melee with Inacrin, attacks Inacrin with short sword. Rolls 16 versus AC 15 for a hit for 2 damage. The remaining guard on the right moves close to Inacrin and stabs forward with his short sword, landing a blow to her thigh. Guard 1 is stunned for 1 round. Fodinas moves into melee and attacks with short sword and bonus action short sword. Rolls 22 is a hit for 10 damage plus 3 sneak attack damage. 14 is a miss for no damage. Fodinas charges up to Inacrin next to Peace and makes a slash with both of his short sword. Case attempts to grapple Inacrin. Rolls an 11 versus 4. Inacrin is grappled. Case runs forward into the fray, leaping onto the desk to grab Inacrin from behind. Malaysia casts Firebolt. Rolls 18 for a hit for 10 damage. Malaysia, seeing Case has her held, fires another firebolt at her chest, striking her in a blast of flames. Her eyes roll back in her head and she falls unconscious. The party receive 50 experience points each. As soon as Inacrin hits the floor, the 2 guards move to their colleagues to assist them. Fodinas makes a sleight of hand check, DC 12, rolls 14. Fodinas drops to the floor next to Inacrin and quickly disarms her. He rifles through her pockets and removes all that she's wearing except her clothes. He grabs her bag from her shoulder, which he recognizes, and places everything she was carrying inside her bag, including her leather armor, which he deftly strips from her. He tucks the bag inside his overcoat and stands back up. After reviving the captain of the guard and using the remaining 46 feet of Inacel's rope to bind Inacrin's mouth, arms, and legs tightly, Inacrin sits in the chair, awakened by Umgurn, staring angrily at the room. She looks down at her bindings and notices that all of her possessions are missing. She looks towards Fodinas and stares murder at him.
Well, it is clear we cannot let this one speak, so I think we have no choice but to send her to Pathelia for the Wizards of Court to question her.
The captain sighs and continues writing on the parchment.
Actually, Captain, we believe that we can let her use a quill and write answers to any pressing questions, no?
Peace moves to Inacrin and frees only one of her arms so that she can move her hand enough to write. With her free hand, all 4 soldiers pull their blades, but then relax.
She has no magical focus and her mouth is gagged. I don't think there is much she can do.
Inacrin smirks loathingly at the tabaxi.
Very well, let's begin. What is your name?
Fodinas moves up behind Inacrin and places each of his razor-sharp daggers next to her ribs such that only Peace can see them and Inacrin can feel them. She scribbles quickly. Peace reads her writing.
Inacrin Chilpira.
And what manner of creature or being are you?
I am a druid of the forests and a warlock of the Archfey.
And what was your business here in Woods Head?
I came to claim the heart of that fire elemental.
She nods towards Malaysia in the back.
And for what purpose?
Inacrin hesitates, and Fodinas pushes slightly with his blades.
I need it for a ritual I was completing.
And what is the nature of this ritual?
Malaysia chimes in from the back of the room excitedly.
She wants to burn Pathilia to the ground. She told me.
Inacrin looks over her shoulder at him and gives him an equally loathing look.
Is this true? You wish to attack Pathilia with fire?
Yes.
And who exactly do you work for? Who are you in league with?
No one but myself.
You harbor such a hatred for Pathilia that you stalk my citizens, disrupt my festival in a poor attempt to take this Genasi's heart? How could you succeed on your own? You must have had help or backup.
With those words, the other three guards drew their swords again and moved to check the doors and windows. Theophania, still outside the window, looks around at the still bustling square and shrugs her shoulders at the guard who is peering out. Inacrin drops the quill. She looks sternly at the captain. The interview appears to be over. Fodinas removes the daggers and steps back. Peace goes towards Inacrin's hand to move it back into the ropes, and she flashes her eyes at him. Her hand contorts in multiple movements. Inacrin casts Primal Savagery, and razor-sharp claws erupt from her fingers while fangs appear to jut through the ropes in her mouth, burning them with acid. Her other hand, equally clawed, shreds through the ropes, and she leaps from the chair and towards the open window behind the captain's desk. Fodinas takes an attack of opportunity and slashes with his dagger at Inacrin. Rolls 8 for a miss for no damage. Before anyone else can react, Inacrin is through the window and vanishes into the darkness. The following morning, after everyone had had a rest at the same inn, they'd agreed to meet first thing in the morning in Fodinas' room to discuss what had happened with the druid warlock. Umgurn had already collected the payment from the constable for the information, though he had reduced it to the amount of 500 gold pieces since the party let her escape. Umgurn had not protested, but simply agreed. All 7 gather in Fodinas' room, which, fortunately, has a door to the outside on the back stair so that Theophania could join them. As she settles into a corner, resting on her folded legs, Fodinas pulls forth the bag.
I recognized this last night as a bag of holding, I think, as I have one myself.
He points towards his own bag under his arm.
So, let's turn it inside out and see what this Inacrin was up to.
He promptly grabs the bottom of the bag with the top open and pushes his fist through, inverting the bag and spilling its contents. The rest take one step back, unclear if something ominous or dangerous might emerge. Onto the floor falls all of the following items: a hefty leather coin bag that seems full, studded leather, a scimitar, a shield, a wooden staff, bedroll, lyre, mess kit, 10 days' worth of rations, a coil of 50 feet of silk rope, a tinderbox, 10 torches, a water skin, 4 solid gold rings with various gems, and a platinum chain necklace with a large gem pendant. Fodinas picks up the leather coin pouch and begins counting the coins. Malaysia and Inacel begin probing the armor, scimitar, shield, staff, and lyre with various arcana investigations and use of magical identification. Inacel makes 5 arcana checks, and Malaysia casts Identify as a ritual up to 5 times. Rolls 4, 20, 8, 9, and 15. Case and Peace look through the routine equipment carefully. Case and Peace make investigation checks, DC 10. Roll a 13 and a 15. Theophania and Umgurn examine the rings and chain. Theophania and Umgurn make investigation checks and arcana checks. Roll 17 and 3, and then 5 and 3. After an hour, Fodinas looks up at everyone.
Well, she has about 218 gold pieces total, plus the 500 from the constable, works out to about 102 gold pieces each.
He shares the money, as does Umgurn. Each party member receives 102 gold pieces. Inacel perks up.
This is magical studded leather, and based on everyone here, would likely best serve Fodinas.
She hands him the leather, which he examines and dons it after removing his own.
This scimitar is also magical, and I think it would serve me nicely, as I am the only one using a scimitar now.
The group nods in agreement. She gives the weapon a few swings and places her old one on the floor. Malaysia steps forward.
His shield, staff, and lyre are all common items.
Case also pushes some items forward.
These other items are also pretty common, but I believe Inacel's hempen rope was destroyed by the warlock, so you should restock from this. It is fine silk. The rations we can split, yes? The rest we can sell.
Everyone takes a ration, and Fodinas adds the extra to his own bag of holding. Inacel takes the rope. Each party member receives a ration. Fodinas receives 4 rations and magical studded leather armor, and Inacel receives 50 feet of silk rope and a magical scimitar.
And then there is this.
Peace pulls a folded piece of paper from the pile and unfolds it again to show the group. Umgurn, Theophania, and Inacel peer at it closely as the local natives of Pithilius. Inacel, Umgurn, and Theophania make history checks. Roll 20, 13, and 7. Inacel's eyes widen and she gasps.
Fascinating. This is a map of the Blight to the east, I think, but it is very old. However, it has what appear to be cities or possibly ruins marked with names, and there seem to be dates in the future.
Umgurn looks more closely at the map now that Inacel has oriented the group. Umgurn makes an insight check. Rolls 16. Umgurn takes the map and looks at it carefully.
What I think this is an expedition plan. These dates are after the cold season, when the ocean is calmer and the days are warmer, at least 4 moon turns from now, and each city or ruin is in a specific order. First Sane, then Charo, which are the most remote, then Hespa and Phila, then finally Persephone. But I do not know these names.
Nor do I.
Theophania and Inacel both shake their heads. Malage steps forward and looks at the map.
But people travel here frequently to this blight, yes?
Theophania smiles at the little genasi.
No, the Blight is a vast desert of sand and hideous creatures corrupted by the magic of Santernalfus that laid waste to it hundreds of years ago. Ships do not sail east of the Fingers, only north, and then only through a large open ocean pass that avoids the dangerous waters east of Devonmere. If these are towns or ruins, no one from Pathelia will have ever explored them that I know of, nor from Devonmere for that matter.
But then, why would a druid warlock have this map?
Peace takes it from Umgurn and reads the names carefully. Umgurn sighs loudly.
Well, one possible explanation is that she is an agent of Santernalfus. Her desire to burn Pathelia along with this map could mean that Santernalfus plans to invade Pathilius. Had she succeeded...
Or if she succeeds.
Malage's voice is full of anxiety.
Yes, if she succeeds still, little one. That would throw Pathilius into chaos, and no one would notice an exploration or invasion of the Blight.
What can be done?
Inacel runs her foreclaw over the map.
My close favor with the king. I must speak with him directly and in private. We cannot trust that other agents of Santernalfus are not at work here. This map is old, as you say, and only the dates are new. So, someone gave it to her. Euphania, you are under contract from the king, and Inacel, the people are great emissaries to the throne and friend to the elves and Loxodon and Pathilius. Will you accompany me to see the king?
Of course.
They both answer in unison.
Face, Peace, and Fodinas, may I ask that you protect Malage until we know that Inacron is no longer a threat?
Umgurn places a hand on Case and Fodinas' shoulders.
Happy to.
Case smiles and puts his hand on the genasi's shoulder. Peace nods. Fodinas hesitates.
It seems like Case and I have some future business with a mind flayer residing under Pathelia. No, would it not be best for the 3 of us to protect Malage and accompany you to the city? We can see Trabask while you meet the king.
I would feel more comfortable with all of you nearby until Inacron is caught. She may see any or all of you as a threat or in need of vengeance, and each of you alone are still children, and she is a heartless person, searching for his heart.
Malage cowers a bit and stands closer to Peace. Theophania moves towards the group holding the jewelry.
Before we forget, these rings and necklace appear, to me, to simply be jewelry, but I would appreciate it if Malage could take a look.
The group breaks off into small pairs and clusters to continue quiet discussion while Malage identifies the items. After an hour, he looks up.
Yeah, probably really expensive, but not magical.
Fodinas scoops up all of the items.
Perfect. Give me an hour while you all have some breakfast and I'll have everything we don't need replaced with some coin.
Your fence will certainly be happy to see you.
Umgurn smirks, but Fodinas is already out the door. Fodinus moves quickly away from the inn, across several streets, and ducks down an alley. Fodinus makes a stealth check, rolls a 10. Because it is mid-morning, the streets are quite busy and there are no clouds in the sky. He avoids suspicion and wandering eyes, but it is not easy to avoid being seen. He decides to boldly stride across the main square, walking across some trash and debris from the evening's festivities that still lay around while a few folks are busy cleaning it. He passes close to one, smiles, and tosses her a gold piece. Fodinus gives away 1 gold piece. She smiles in return and pockets it. As he moves down the southwestern street, the weapons shop is approaching on his left. Fodinus makes a stealth check, rolls a 19. A passing cloud darkens the morning for a moment, and Fodinus ducks down a side street, hugs close to a small, quiet home where no one is working, and quickly moves unseen to the cellar doors of a small cottage next to the southwest gate. The guards at the gate are looking outward. Inside, Fodinus goes to a wooden wall of the mostly dirt and stone-walled basement, taps 3 times, then waits. A few moments later, he hears a trapdoor above his head on the other side of the wall open and close, and then the wall in front of him slides open. Portia de Fancy, a slender human wearing a simple blue cotton dress with her long gray hair secured in a tight bun, smiles back at him.
Come on in.
She is quiet but not whispering.
Thank you, Portia. I will be quick. I have a few mundane items to get rid of.
He places everything on a table under a large, intensely bright chandelier of magical, never-melting candles.
And then there are these.
He places the 4 rings and the necklace on the table.
Mundane indeed, but I dare say not things we just want to see laying around on the street, but these.
She pulls a jeweler's loop from her pocket and pounces upon the gold rings and necklace. She studies them for many minutes, looking carefully at the quality, uniqueness, and for specific marks.
Well, these are very fine indeed, Fodinus, and you are lucky that I happen to have just replenished my coffers. Let's say I give you 10,500 gold pieces for the lot.
She smiles, insinuating it's a good sum for the lot. Portia rolls a persuasion check. Fodinus makes an insight check. She rolls a 15 versus a 5.
Well, I think you might be getting a huge bargain. When I don't have time just now to examine your shrewdness, my dear, 10,500 will be perfect. Could you divide it into 7 little sacks?
Oh, we have friends now? Or just accomplices?
She laughs, counting coins from a small bag at her side.
Remains to be seen. A group of really good kids, actually. Not the type of folks that should be associated with me normally, but I need them for now.
He begins pulling the sacks toward him and placing them in his bag.
Ah, must be hot on the trail of your mind flayer.
She laughs bitterly as the last of the coins are dispersed. With a few hand gestures and some mumbling, all of the items vanish.
That will do it, I think. Good luck, Fody. You're one of the best, even if you pretend to be a heartless thief.
She cackles loudly as he exits the wood-paneled room and sneaks back up through the basement door to the bright sunlight above. He returns to the tavern within an hour to find the group at the same table having food. He sits among them and smiles. He pulls 6 small cloth bags from his own bag of holding and places one in front of each of them.
Don't count it now and put it away quickly.
He pushes the bags towards everyone. Umgurn picks up the bag and frowns.
This seems like...
Let's just say that our druid warlock friend was clearly very connected and has some patron out there who bestows very expensive jewelry to her.
Fodinus nods to everyone whose eyes are large with the hefty sack. Each party member receives 1,500 gold pieces.
Thank you, Fodinus. While you were away, we have all agreed upon the plan, and that we shall leave in 1 quinde for Pithilia. Umgurn is without resources, we assume, or funds, so she is likely to return to her people, if they are nearby, to regroup. That being the case, Ace, Peace, and you will take turns guarding the range this week, while you do whatever you need to prepare. Inesel and Epiphania are going to return to the forest and the plains to go about their usual activities. We will regroup here in 5 days to depart.
Umgurn looks at everyone in turn, nodding as they nod in return to agree.
Peace. Please take this as well. I have a feeling you like books, and they just get too heavy without some help.
Fodinus gives Peace the bag of holding that he took from Umgurn. Peace smiles brightly and bows deeply. The party engage in downtime activities for 1 quinde. Peace spends the bulk of their week walking around Woodshead, greeting everyone they see outside and striking up random conversations. They spend at least an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening with Case in quiet discussion. They find 2 different bookstores which they peruse tirelessly and finally settle on 2 new books for purchase, along with more writing supplies for a cost of 175 gold pieces. Having ascended in their prowess, they spend several hours each day working on their newly found key and how to use it effectively in combat. Lastly, at Hadrian's Heretics, a small magical shop in Woodshead, they have their family heirloom agile spear of the flowing stream enchanted to be magical for improved attacks and acrobatics for a cost of 750 gold pieces. During the week, they have done poetry readings, their own and some from their new book. Peace makes 4 performance checks, rolls 3 successes and 1 failure, time 4d20 possible gold equals 42 gold pieces, which netted them 42 gold pieces. NSL spends the bulk of the week exploring the forest of East Mornwood to commune with as many animals as she can find in hopes of increasing the usability of her new awakened talent of wild shaping into animals. Because of her familiarity with the woods, she easily found spiders, hares, and rabbits, many deer, and wolves, but she ventured quite a bit south towards the mountains and lucked upon a cave near the start of the smallest hills. There she saw several dire wolves. She spent an afternoon with them in her wild-shaped form of a dire wolf. Lastly, every evening she spent quite a bit of time making healing potions and stocked up 10 in total at a cost of 250 gold pieces. For assisting Theophania with her contracts, she receives 100 gold pieces. NSL gains 10 healing potion and spends a net of 150 gold pieces. Umgurn spends his week working at night for a few hours, splitting his shift with a Furbog colleague so that he has some time in the day to sort himself for the trip. He secures a large wooden paneled wagon and 2 horses for the journey on lease from a local for 300 gold pieces, which would easily hold the groups and supplies. He stocks up on supplies including cooking equipment and supplies, a bolt of oilcloth, some lanterns and oil, and a few other camping supplies for a total of 150 gold pieces. He also spends some time understanding his growing paladin skills, which includes some protective magic and some magical strikes. He has Hadrian take a look at his double-bladed scimitar, and he provides some improvements to it magically to increase its protective nature and add some finesse for 500 gold pieces. Lastly, he upgraded to splint mail from chainmail for increased protection. For completing his work, he receives 50 gold pieces. Umgurn acquires a wagon, supplies, an improved scimitar, and splint mail, and spends a net of 900 gold pieces. Theophania has her contracts to maintain and, assisted a bit by NSL, continues her surveys of the plains deer, occasionally culling a few per day as needed. She makes a special request of the furrier that he begin making 7 heavy fur-lined outer coats and gives him the various sizes of the party. She is not sure, but she has a sinking feeling they will be asked to go to the Blight sooner rather than later, and with the harsh cold moon turns ahead, it is best to be prepared. He agrees to make the heavy coats and makes an arrangement with the tailor in town for them to be fine quality and stylish, fit for each person, and very warm at a cost of 100 gold pieces each. Theophania's practice with her bow shows great increase in her archery skills, and she spends some gold to acquire 5 magical arrows for 250 gold pieces. For completing her weekly contract, she receives 400 gold pieces, of which she gives 100 to NSL for assisting her. Theophania gains 5 + 1 arrows and spends a net of 650 gold pieces. Fodinus gambles for most of the week, including on a few cage matches that do not include Case, about which he is a little disappointed, as well as at games of dice and cards. Fodinus makes a roll on the carousing table, rolls a 20 + a 2 equals 22. Although he ends up even for the week on funds, he has made a new enemy named Victor the Viper Delacroix, who is a traveling card shark that Fodinus accused, rather publicly, of cheating, which resulted in the Viper being run out of town. However, being flush with gold from his original win off of Case, he upgrades all of his weapons magically with Hadrian, including his special daggers at 500 gold pieces each and his short swords at 2,000 gold pieces each. Fodinus receives 2 + 1 daggers and 2 + 2 short swords and spends a net of 5,000 gold pieces. Malaysia hangs around town and takes some time, while being guarded by either Case, Peace, or Fodinus, to do some shopping to upgrade his armor. He sells his chain shirt and buys a fine breastplate as he greatly admires Theophania's breastplate, and it adds some extra protection while reducing his weight. His tinkering with magic has improved, and he now feels confident enough to attempt infusing larger items with magic. He replicates his own bag of holding and gives his short bow a repeating shot, increasing its damage and reducing the need for ammunition. He also acquires some smithing tools and tinkering tools to match his skill sets that are now easily stored in his bag of holding. He found a jeweler who sold him some chips of obsidian to replace and increase his stash, shocked at the cost since obsidian is literally everywhere in the elemental plane of fire. Lastly, he spends an hour or so every day as Isvarara sets, doing some fire juggling and performing. Malaysia makes 4 performance checks, rolls 2 successes and 2 failures for 50% of 4d20, earning him 28 gold pieces. Malaysia receives a breastplate, smith's tools, tinkering tools, obsidian chips for a net spend of 600 gold pieces. Case spends most of his days exercising and training, often with a crowd that includes Peace when they are not guarding Malaysia. Because of his performance in his first match, there has not yet been any other cage match challenges for him to compete in during the week. Case makes 4 athletic checks, rolls 4 successes for 100% of 4d20 gold pieces, equals 43 gold pieces. The crowd loves him, and he acquires 43 gold pieces from his admirers who come to see him exercising. Although he prefers to fight barehanded, he decides he should upgrade his attire, armor, and throwing weapons since they may encounter something other than a cage match at some point in this land. He purchases splint mail and sells his chainmail and acquires some additional new, more stylish traveling clothes of a dark blue shirt, dark green leather tunic, dark brown pants, and a second pair of very comfortable, made-to-fit boots of soft leather. Hadrian was unimpressed with his javelin and refused to upgrade it. However, he has a very special magical sphere that he acquired recently, which he is willing to sell Case for 1,350 gold pieces because he is a bit of a local hero, having defeated Goshen, whom Hadrian never liked. Case examines the spear, and Adrian explains that the spear can be thrown accurately for great distances and always returns to the thrower's hand. Case finds this fascinating and says he will take it. Case receives splint mail, stylish traveling clothes, a spear of faithful return, spending a net of 1,500 gold pieces. On the 5th day, the last day of the Quinn day, the group reassembles mid-morning at the tavern. Umgurn smiles at everyone and encourages them to load into the covered wagon and stow their things, which Case, Peace, and Fodinus do. He takes the reins and begins the journey to Pathelia of several days alongside Theophania, who pulls her own cart in which Malaysia and Inicel have chosen to ride. The constable waves them down as they near the edge of town and pulls Umgurn to the side for a private conversation. When Umgurn returns to the wagon, he briefs the group.
The constable wanted to tell me that I am taking very serious risks traversing the road from here to Pathelia without an armed guard and, with a bunch of, young people. As Theophania and Inicel know well, the wilds of Pathelia are very wild and dangerous, but with the amount of traffic going to and fro on the road these days, I don't think we'll have much trouble.
He smiles at the group.
The constable was telling you this, but you were already aware?
Malaysia stands up from the back of Theophania's cart and looks concerned with his arms crossed.
The road from Plentha didn't seem too dangerous. Just some wolves, remember? I told you.
Well, yes and no. He was telling me that the last 2 heavily guarded caravans that arrived from Pathelia in the last week reported some troubles. Hearing lots of activity in the woods and marsh at night, seeing beings in the daytime that are uncommon. They may have lost a horse or 2 in the night to some large beasts, but he wasn't entirely clear. He thinks something is stirring up trouble specifically along this road.
He again smiles confidently.
Should we be worried?
Peace also looks concerned, echoed by a nod from Case.
I traversed these woods themselves within the last 2 moon turns, traveling by daylight and at night. I did not have any trouble.
Inicel stands next to Malaysia and hugs him close.
But you are a druid in a cell, and you are alone. We are quite a large party with 2 horses.
Fodinus also looks on with a face of worry.
Our plan will be to travel with as much daylight as possible. Make camp each day while we still have enough daylight to secure our site, and stick close to the road. If we do that, I think we will be okay. I want to be clear with all of you. I don't trust anyone with this Incabulos running around. I think our confidence with the king should remain that. A confidence.
Umgurn places his hands on his hips with his chest out to assure the group of his confidence. Umgurn makes a persuasion check, rolls 14 versus a group insight check of 11. Case nods.
If you say it is safe,
Then I am good to go.
The others nod in agreement. The wagon and cart resumes their journey out of the gate and onto the road. All members of the party have reached second level. Umgurn chooses Blessed Warrior fighting style, Spare the Dying and Toll the Dead. Malaysia chooses Artificer Infusions, Replicate Magic Item, Spell Rot Tattoo, Enhanced Defense, Replicate Magic Item, Bag of Holding, and Repeating Shot. Theophania chooses Archery Fighting Style. Inesil chooses Circle of the Moon Druid. Thank you for visiting Engedrian. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for additional content, battle maps, and background details. We hope you're enjoying our adventure. We can't wait to hear what happens next.